Hey guys, this is Dr. Isabella Wentz. Today is day 4 of the Thyroid Secret. So today we're talking about toxins. For those of you that are just meeting me for the first time, I'm Dr. Isabella Wentz. I'm a clinical pharmacist, New York Times best-selling author of Hashimoto's The Root Cause, as well as Hashimoto's Protocol is my upcoming book, and I'm also the host and the creator of the Thyroid Secret. Really excited to have you here, and I see some eyes are starting to join. If you could let me know where you're from and your name, and if you've been watching the Thyroid Secret, that'll help me figure out that my sound is working, because every now and then technology isn't the kindest to me. So Stephanie from Indiana, how are you doing? Stephanie says, I'm experiencing major swelling in my stomach, legs, arms, back, and face. Let's see. Do you know what could be causing this? You know, I would look into food sensitivities as a potential root cause, and I hope that you check into episode 5. That'll give you some more ideas about food sensitivities potentially causing some of the symptoms that you're experiencing. Dan Jan is from Washington. Hello. Maya from Phoenix. Nice to see you. Christy from Iowa. Hello, Christy. Looks like we've got a few people dialing in. If you guys are seeing this message, if you could go ahead and hit like, and if you could make a comment for me to let me know that you're here, where you're from. And I'm also curious, how many of you have been watching The Thyroid Secret? Have you seen it the first time around that it aired in January, or are you just watching it now? And if you're watching it, which episode have you seen so far? So today we're actually airing episode 4. This just went out about 2 hours ago, and just some quick housekeeping notes. I want to let you guys know we've extended episode 3 for an extra 12 hours. So you'll be able to watch it for 10 additional hours because some of you guys didn't get the links and some of you didn't also emailed customer service or sent a message to customer service, but some of your messages were actually getting caught in our filters. So we just learned of that this morning, and we've been working feverishly to try to answer all of those messages. So we apologize for the trouble. It's it's one of those things that we did so much to prepare. We have a whole team in place. We had checklists. We have backup and all of this, but technology is what it is, and especially when you have 500,000 people joining to watch. We are now up to over 530,000 people that have signed up to watch the world premiere of The Thyroid Secret, and I personally couldn't be happier because finally people are getting access to this information that can change their lives. So I'm really glad that you're here. Let's check in who we have. We have Julie from Missouri, Rhonda from Vancouver, British Columbia. Christy watched it the first time. Corinne Jezorski from Chicago. Hello, how are you doing? She has watched every episode. Any link between thyroid impacting auditory disorders? Potentially that thyroid disease may cross-react with ear antibodies. There's some research behind that, and I would also look into the MTHFR gene mutation. There may be some connection between hearing loss there. We have Jennifer from Ottawa, Canada. Hello. Jenna from Tennessee. Can subclinical hypothyroidism cause hair loss since you have enough thyroid hormone? Jenna, absolutely. Actually, that was my first big symptom that got me really pushing to get tested for a thyroid disease and do more extensive testing. And I had subclinical hypothyroidism when I was losing my hair. I lost up to 1/3 of my hair. And the reason for that, and we're going to talk about some of the takeaways from episode 4, the toxins episode, as well as answer your questions live. One of the reasons for that is known as a theory. I actually came up with it. So it's the safety theory of thyroid disease. And basically it focuses on why we develop a thyroid condition. For me, going through and studying thyroid disease for the last 4 years, I found that there's a multitude of factors that contribute and cause thyroid disease. So they're toxins, they're infections, they're nutrient imbalances, they're going to be food sensitivities, they're going to be intestinal permeability, as well as impaired stress response or chronic stress. And so what do all of these different things have in common, right? When you pull back and you go back and try to peel back, and part of root cause analysis is to keep asking why, until you get to the bottom or the root cause of things. And the root cause of thyroid disease is basically, when you think about what the thyroid gland does, is it manages our metabolism. And so when our metabolism is slowed down, that helps our survival because we don't need as much food to get by, and we're basically holding on to our calories. Another interesting thing is that most people actually, before they become hypothyroid, will have a transient overactive thyroid where they'll be anxious, and in some cases they might be diagnosed with Graves' disease depending on where they do their testing and when they do their testing. And so in a way, when you're anxious, this can also make you hypervigilant, and this could be protective as well. So the whole basis of the safety theory is that whenever we have a person who feels that they're threatened by their environment, whether that's through a toxin or perhaps an infection that they have or a nutrient deficiency, the thyroid gland can sense this, and then the thyroid gland will send messages to the body, and the body will try to slow down our metabolism to help us survive, or initially makes us more hypervigilant, and then slows down our metabolism to help us survive. So this is why people who have had a history of post-traumatic stress disorder have higher rates of thyroid disease, why people who have food sensitivities have thyroid disease, why people who are exposed to toxins have higher rates of thyroid disease. And it's because our body, for whatever reason, is sensing that it's not safe. So this is something that's very, very important to keep in mind. And a lot of times people will say, okay, I'm fighting my thyroid, or I want to beat this thyroid disease, or I want to beat this condition. And I think, of course, we want to overcome, but at the same time, we have to understand that our thyroid gland is actually serving a protective role, and it's just responding to our environment. So episode 4 was focused on toxins in our environment, and how do we live, and how do we send our thyroid gland these safety messages when we're living in a toxic, quote-unquote, unsafe world. And we'll talk a little bit about why toxins play such a big role. So let's see here. If you guys are watching this, if you could do me a favor and share this on your timeline. We're trying to get the message out to as many people as possible, letting them know that thyroid disease is something that they can overcome, and letting them know that there are things in our environment that can cause thyroid disease, and that there are things that we can do to help ourselves feel tremendously better. In some cases, get rid of all of our symptoms. In some cases, even get rid of our thyroid condition. So if you are just dialing in and haven't seen episode 4, I have some links for you. So I wrote them out behind me, and I apologize if my writing is harsh. I come from a long line of doctors, so that would probably be why. Episode 4, if you wanted to watch that, go to tinyurl.com, TTSE4. And if you also look at the description of this here, you can click on that, and you can dial in to watch, sign up for episode 4 today. If you haven't yet, you do have 22 hours actually as of right now to watch this episode. And episode 1, 2, and 3 are also available for the next 10 hours. So I suggest that you take this weekend, and after you hop off here, you do some binge watching and catch up on the episodes that you haven't seen. Anne Marie is saying, thank you so much. I'm learning so much watching from Australia. Jacqueline says, thank you for taking the time. Oh, it's my pleasure. Corinne says, thank you. Monica is from Alabama. Monica says, hello. Millie Brown from Virginia, hello. Teresa, haven't watched the videos yet. I will for sure. Teresa, make sure you tune in tonight, because we're going to be, we're extending things for you guys so that you have a little bit more time to watch this weekend. Noreen, British Columbia, hello. Canada in the house. Wonderful, wonderful to see you on here. Catherine, Jacqueline says, my hair is growing and I take biotin, so that can be very, very helpful. I agree. Catherine says, my pregnant daughter has a low thyroid. Doctor told her not to worry about it. Catherine, I would encourage you to have your daughter watch episode 7, which is coming out on March 7th, and take a look at that, and then perhaps get a second opinion. I don't know her situation, but when you have a low thyroid in pregnancy, that can actually increase the risk of miscarriage. And I don't know her labs, but the TSH should be somewhere between I would say 0.5 and 2.5 for most women of childbearing age for healthiest pregnancy outcomes. So I do hope that you have her take a look at her labs and get a second opinion if necessary, because this is a very, very important time. And, I want to make sure that she's not relying on somebody else for the outcomes of her baby, because doctors make mistakes. Dana Trentini, the hypothyroid mom, who's a wonderful lady, a dear friend of mine, is in episode 7, and she's on this crusade to save babies with proper thyroid care. And so she talks about the various guidelines of how thyroid disease should be treated during pregnancy. That's in episode 7, and you can also go to her website. If you search for hypothyroid mom, you'll be able to see some of those guidelines, and I encourage you to share those with your daughter ASAP, just because we want to make sure that she has a healthy baby and a healthy pregnancy. Jen says, I haven't watched episode 4, but thank you so much. I'm glad to hear that. I just sent in the episode 4, so you guys can still watch that. Go ahead and watch. I hope that you enjoy it and you get some truth bombs. Let's see. I'm getting so many great comments here. Wow. Leslie says, I got deathly sick after termite treatment of my home. My doctor thought, I was dealing with seized up muscles, vision disturbance, nausea and vomiting, dizziness, throbbing in my vision. They treated me like a nut job. You're not crazy. So as a trained pharmacologist, I could tell you that a lot of the pesticides do impact our bodies. And so the way that they kill the pathogens, that they kill these bugs in our home, they actually can impact our bodies as well. So I don't know what kind of pesticide was used in your home, but I know there are some of the what it went through. It sounds like you had cholinergic toxicity, where basically, this is a type of chemical that's used to destroy various bugs. And if you saw a toxicologist or a pharmacologist, they would be able to tell you that's likely what happened. And I'm so sorry that you went through that. There are various methods for, I hope that you're through it, and eventually these toxins will clear out of the body, but in some cases you may need more support for clearing them out of your body, and we discussed that in episode 4. So we discuss the various types of toxins and how to clear them out of your body. Alexis wants to know, if someone addresses their triggers and gets their autoimmune disease into remission and their thyroid heals and they don't need any thyroid medication, do they feel like their old self again? Does their energy and hair come back 100%, or is that not guarantee? Could some of the hair loss and exhaustion be permanent? So Alexis, the good news is that, this is all reversible. So the hair comes back, the energy comes back. My hair, I lost over a third of my hair at one point, and it's all back. So I've got a lot of it. And the first thing that happens is it stops falling out. And then after that, you'll start seeing little spikes coming through. And then of course it takes some time to grow it back and be really full all over again. I used to never wear my hair up in a ponytail because I had all these bald spots and on the sides of my head, and now I'm, you guys, maybe I'll wear a ponytail tomorrow or something, but now I have, I have so much hair, and it's wonderful to have it back. So it's absolutely reversible. Here's the thing too, is getting on proper thyroid hormone treatment and getting the right kind of protocols will help you do that. And then the next step is actually removing your root causes. And then after that is potentially weaning off of thyroid hormones once you heal up the thyroid gland. But with the current interventions and strategies we have, I've seen really fantastic results in people recovering their health and feeling like themselves again, even, kind of in the first steps of their healing journey. My book, Hashimoto's Protocol, so I was making an announcement. I just got it in the mail yesterday from my publisher. So this is it. I'm so excited about it. This has been a work in progress the last few years. I've got the fundamental protocols in here. I don't know if you guys could see. The fundamental protocols are steps that every single person with Hashimoto's can take to feel better. What I found in the course of the last few years working with over 1,000 people with Hashimoto's is when you follow fundamental protocols, and one of the big fundamentals is supporting your liver. and we'll get into that a little bit later. As you can tell, it's on the agenda. That liver support can result in feeling significantly better within 2 weeks. So 65% of my clients that went through the liver support strategies that I recommend felt significantly better within 2 weeks. So the liver, adrenals, and gut are the fundamentals of what you need to support to feel your best. And oftentimes this could be a quick turnaround when within 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, you're back to feeling like yourself again, and you're feeling even better than you used to feel, which is always really exciting to me to say, like, to see people who have said, oh my gosh, I've always had these stomach aches, and wow, I don't have them anymore, or I had multiple chemical sensitivity. I didn't realize that was related to my thyroid, but now that's gone too. And that's been one of the big things I've been able to see with my clients, is that things like multiple chemical sensitivities, migraines, headaches, fatigue, all of these things lift, and sometimes in as quickly as 2 weeks, when you start removing some of those toxins from your body and you process that backlog out of your body. The second part of my book, Hashimoto's Protocol, has more of the advanced protocols. So it's like the first part is like how to feel better, and then the second part is how to figure out your root causes and your residual things that we haven't addressed. And then I go through and I share every single protocol that I've developed over the last few years for my clients for various types of root causes, because we'll get into toxins. Toxins are definitely a root cause, and different toxins may benefit from various types of interventions. And so I have the variety of different interventions in Hashimoto's Protocol. One really, really exciting thing for you guys is that we're doing with the Thyroid Secret was we're actually giving away a copy of the Hashimoto's Protocol if you get the gold package. The link to the gold package is listed here, so tinyurl.com/ttsgold. And people have been asking, a lot of the things for international shipping, it's difficult to get to people, but we're actually shipping the Thyroid Secret packages to everywhere in the world. So you could ship the DVDs sets to anywhere in the world. The book is being shipped to the United States. So that's something that people have been asking about. Let me see here. I've got some great questions coming through. If you guys are watching this, if you could go ahead and share this on your timeline and let people know about how toxins can trigger thyroid disease. We're going to get into some of the toxins, why toxins can act as a trigger, even if you don't have a lot of them. And we're also going to get into some of the toxins that could trigger thyroid disease, and then what we're going to do about it. And we're also going to cover the iodine controversy. I don't think I've ever spoken publicly about it because it's so controversial, but hey, the first time for everything, right? Anissa wants to know, will you be discussing anything about thyroid nodules and what to do about them? We do discuss thyroid nodules, thyroid cancer, postpartum thyroid issues, Graves' disease, and Hashimoto's and hypothyroidism in the Thyroid Secret. So with nodules, some things you want to remember, and we do, everything for Hashimoto's is going to help nodules. I didn't, a lot of the things that I've discovered over the last few years have been very much serendipitous. And what I came to learn is a lot of the protocols that I was using for people with Hashimoto's to get Hashimoto's into remission and to get people feeling better resulted in shrinking of nodules. So it's been, and disappearing nodules. I have a blog post that I'm due to write after the documentary is over, because this is a lot of work, as you can imagine, to have, to get this event and get all of this out to 500,000 people plus. And so the key things for nodules, you want to make sure that you do the following. So you want to figure out what your triggers are for those. In some cases, the infection H. pylori can trigger nodules. Acupuncture can help shrink them. Taking a selenium supplement can help. Figuring out if you have gut pathogens can be very helpful. The autoimmune paleo diet can be really, really helpful. I've seen some people just with that, their nodules disappear. And then one other intervention that can be helpful is taking thyroid hormone. A low dose of thyroid hormone, even if you're not quote unquote hypothyroid, can actually help, and it can help improve some of the function. Potentially toxins and estrogen dominance may also be associated with nodules. And so the episode 4, we start getting deeper into that. So hopefully you'll be tuning in. Okay, let's see what other questions we have. This thing doesn't want to scroll for me. Okay. Okay, sorry guys, it's only letting me scroll downwards. I can't scroll up to see previous questions. Sherry says, can Hashimoto's cause loss of function in the arms and legs? Potentially people can get tingling in the arms and legs. What I've seen a lot is pain, and I would also look into additional autoimmune conditions. Let's see, Kimberly, goiter and nodules. I have a goiter and nodules, but tests came back within normal range. Is it possible to still have symptoms of hypothyroidism with normal test results? So Kimberly, I would encourage you to get a copy of your own test results and ask. So anywhere from 0.5 to 2 is where your TSH should be if you are not hypothyroid. So a lot of times doctor will say, oh, you know, we tested your thyroid and it's fine. And then the person, I'll look at the lab test, and I can tell you from my personal experience when my TSH was at a 4.5, I was like a sloth. Like my favorite thing, like my hobby was napping. And like I was forgetful. I was walking into rooms, forgetting why. My hair was falling out in patches. That's with the TSH of 4.5. Everybody's going to be a little bit different, but most people feel best with it between 0.5 and 2. And the other thing is, when you have nodules, about 50% of people in the US have nodules. Half of those with nodules, roughly, are actually going to have Hashimoto's. The Hashimoto's may not show up on traditional tests. The tests to ask for are going to be thyroid antibodies, TPO and TG antibodies, but you know, anywhere from 60 to 80% of people with Hashimoto's will be positive for those antibodies. But then there are some people who are quote unquote seronegative Hashimoto's. So they have Hashimoto's, and this can be seen by biopsying their nodules and looking for signs of Hashimoto's on the nodules, or by doing a thyroid ultrasound, and that will tell you if you have Hashimoto's. But you definitely, if you're having thyroid symptoms, I would recommend that you follow all the interventions in this documentary series, as well as, you know, in my books, Hashimoto's Protocol, Hashimoto's the Root Cause. The same interventions will help you. Could you talk about thyroidectomy, Joy? Yeah, so absolutely. We do talk about thyroidectomy throughout the documentary series, and thyroidectomy is something that that, you know, it is recommended sometimes for Graves' disease, sometimes for nodules, sometimes for Hashimoto's. It's not something that I would recommend as a first-line therapy. I would always recommend that people look into figuring out their root causes, potentially doing low-dose naltrexone, or even doing medications, right? Because those options are less permanent. With a thyroidectomy, you're not necessarily going to be able to regrow your thyroid back unless it was a partial thyroidectomy, but it's still important to make sure you address all of your root causes, because I don't know why you had to get one in the first place, but chances are, here's the thing, when the immune system attacks your thyroid gland, conventional medicine says, okay, let's kill the messenger, right? Let's remove the thyroid gland. But that's not the problem. The thyroid is not the problem. The problem is the immune system is out of balance. And I've oftentimes seen a person will get a thyroidectomy, and then they will have, they will develop additional autoimmune conditions after. So they might develop lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, multiple sclerosis after they've had their thyroid gland removed. And then it's sort of like, you know, they're told that the thyroidectomy or the radioactive iodine was the cure, but it isn't. It just basically removes the thyroid glands. One of the important things for thyroidectomy, and then we talk about this throughout this series, and also I would recommend that you get Dr. Sarah Zielsdorf presentation. She's in the gold package, as well as Dr. Amy Meyer's presentation, because one of the important things to feel well with a thyroidectomy is make sure that you have enough T4 and T3 on board. In people who still have their thyroid gland intact, they're still producing some levels of thyroid hormone, right? For yourself, you need to make sure that you're getting sufficient amounts from your hormone replacement, and this oftentimes means you need to be on a natural desiccated thyroid that's more bioidentical, and sometimes you need to be on a combination of natural desiccated thyroid with with a T4. So it just, and you're going to need likely a higher dose than the average person with Hashimoto's. And so this is something that's really, really important for you to know, that you need to work with a doctor that's familiar with this. A lot of times they'll just kind of put you on medication, and they don't, it's actually really quite scary. Like, I've met people who were severely hypothyroid. It was actually a bit crazy. I was serendipitous, I guess. I was going to, when I first wrote my first book, Hashimoto's Root Cause, I was making Xerox copies of it at like Office Max, and the young lady I met there, she was very sluggish and very overweight, and she was helping me with my book, with making the copies. Very lovely woman. I noticed she had a scar on her neck, and we just started chatting, and I said, this is a book about thyroid disease and whatnot, and she's like, oh, I just had my thyroid gland removed. And she wasn't on thyroid medications. So a lot of times, like, the doctors didn't tell her how important it was to be on thyroid medications, and that was, to me, just scary. And so, of course, like, I gave her the copy of the book, and I was like, you need to call your doctor, you need to get to this doctor. I spent a long time making copies there, but this is very, very important and scary. If you've had a thyroidectomy, so important for you to make sure that you're watching your numbers like a hawk. So every 3 months, to make sure that you're getting enough thyroid hormone on board. And then my book, Hashimoto's Protocol, and then episode 3, we talk about some of the best strategies for medication. So like how to optimize your medication dosing. Sorry, it's a little awkward waving stuff in front of the screen. The interview that I did with Carter Black, he's a compounding pharmacist, a dear friend of mine, actually works on my team as one of my consultants. He goes deep into like what are some of the strategies that we need to address when we're taking thyroid hormones. And there's simple things, like, for example, you never want to take thyroid hormones with magnesium and acids or coffee, because that can completely prevent the absorption of your hormones. So just, I know this was a very long-winded answer, and I'm just, I always love talking to you guys. So hopefully that was helpful. Courtney says, I'm excited to hear your liver support strategies. Yay. I'm excited to share those. Twyla says, if you have your gallbladder out, can you still have the liver protocol? Yeah, absolutely. So I oftentimes, if you have had your gallbladder removed, I recommend ox bile. That is going to be a helpful thing. I think I actually might have, this is something that I haven't really told anybody about. We're still working on getting enough of this in supply. You guys, if you look for, this is liver and gallbladder support, something I developed, but if you guys look for announcements tomorrow, let's just say if you can keep your eyes on your email between 11 a.m. and noon Eastern tomorrow, we'll make some fun announcements. We're going to be announcing some ways that you can get access to various helpful things that we have, and some more information on the protocols. Let's see. Thought I was able to scroll back up again. Paige says, this is misleading, but how do you go about finding the root cause? I was first diagnosed with PCOS, then Hashimoto's. Looking forward to reading your book. So yeah, PCOS, one of the things, Paige, I would look into is estrogen dominance. So one of the big connections that was made between Hashimoto, women who had PCOS, obviously men don't have it. So women who had PCOS and Hashimoto's versus women who just had PCOS, they looked at the differences, and they found that higher levels of estrogen were more likely predicative of developing Hashimoto's. So estrogen dominance is something to be very, very mindful of for you, and supporting your liver will actually help with estrogen dominance, because the estrogen metabolites, estrogen metabolites can build up in our body and can cause estrogen dominance. When you properly support your liver, that helps to get out some of the toxins. And I really, really hope you tune into episode 4. I know Tom Maltaire talks about some of the personal care products that can be contributing to estrogen dominance, and that can be very problematic. So that's a potential root cause. And as far as, figuring out what your root cause is, best way I would say is for you to go through these episodes, and then make a health timeline and see what resonates with you. And then my book, Hashimoto's Protocol, also goes through the root causes of thyroid disease and what you can do about each. So, toxins, and I do consider when you have excess estrogen, I do consider that to be a toxin. With anything, there's old pharmacologist, toxicologist kind of saying, the dosage determines whether something is a poison or a remedy, right? And so estrogen, we need it. We don't have enough of it. It's a bad thing. We have too much of it. That's a bad thing. And that's sort of how this would be a perfect segue into iodine. But I'm going to answer a couple of more questions, not to tease you guys, but I know you guys are wanting some questions answered. So, and then we'll hop into some of the other talking points here. My 13-year-old diagnosed last year. Have you seen it in kids this young? Yeah, Terry, this was Emily. Yeah, this can happen. We do see it more commonly in children. So pregnancy, puberty, and perimenopause are the peak times when we tend to be diagnosed if we're women. So this can be something that can be potentially connected. Teresa wants to know, is desiccated liver beneficial? Yeah, it can be really great, especially if you have low ferritin levels. We're going to get into the role of ferritin in thyroid disease in episode 5. Sandra says, hello, I have hypothyroidism and just got a cat and a puppy, and they both take a lot of my energies. They both pee and poop everywhere. Now I'm feeling really tired and also got headaches. Could their bacteria be making me feel worse? I don't know potentially if the bacteria that they have could be making you feel worse. One interesting thing, though, is that we tend to see, higher rates of different conditions in pets. So, like, for example, humans who have thyroid issues, they're more likely to see their pets have thyroid issues as well. And so a lot of times we're thinking it's an environmental thing. Definitely, there's also some zoonotic disorders, and those can be shed in feces. So Toxoplasmosis gondii, for example, this is a parasite that's found in cats. And if if you guys have ever heard precautions for pregnant women that they should never do the cat's litter boxes, is because of this parasite, Toxoplasmosis gondii. It can be potentially problematic for developing babies, right? And can cause miscarriage and potential problems with pregnancy fertility. Now, what's really interesting is researchers have found that T. gondii, Toxoplasmosis gondii, so they basically look at what infections people with Hashimoto's are more likely to test positive for, and Toxoplasmosis gondii is one of them. So that's been recognized as a trigger for thyroid disease. So there's potential parasites or pathogens that can be transmitted back and forth between our furry friends and ourselves, unfortunately. So just something to be mindful of. And of course, I'm a pet lover, and I would never say to get rid of pets, but I do give my dog worm treatment. We do go through and we try to make sure we actually put him on special dog cleanses and stuff like that, and making sure that you're really careful about washing your hands and hygiene. And if you could, I would recommend training your cat to poop in a toilet. I know that's sort of off topic, right? Laura said, loving the series, what brand of cosmetics do you recommend? I love Anne Marie Gianni skincare. I love the Spa Doctor, which is more face wash and stuff, and face cream. And then I also have Bare Minerals is one of my favorite brands that I use. And you guys, I'm all made up tonight. I have a hot date with my husband coming up in about actually 15 minutes or so. So that's the makeup that I use, and I of course everybody's going to be different. Everybody has different tastes and preferences. That's the one I use. So what you can do is go to EWG and figure out which makeup brands are less toxic. Hopefully that helps. Thank you for helping. Teresa says, thank you for helping everybody with Hashimoto's. I just want to feel normal. Yeah, you can get there. I'm really, really glad that you're here. You guys, I was sick for 10 years. And I lost most of my 20s. I was like kind of a couch potato. I got a lot of people called me lazy. I'll admit it. Some people called me crazy. Yeah, I'm back with a vengeance. It's like 2 books and a documentary. You think I'm lazy now, right? So once you guys recover your health, you can really follow your dreams. You could feel like yourself again. And I hope that I give you all the strategies to do so. And I know that I will, because I've seen, everything that I'm putting out in the documentary series and my books I've seen with working with people with Hashimoto's. And I'm just, what I'm always trying to do is like, how do I make it more simple and more approachable for the average person so they don't have to depend on a practitioner? And this is the whole reason of creating all these products for you guys. Catherine says hello from Perth. Hello. One of these days, you guys, if you could host something in Australia, I'd love to come visit. Could do like a little thyroid workshop or something like that. I think that would be really fun. Bonnie asks, when buying supplements, how do you know the good from the bad? So definitely, this is a big thing for me as a pharmacist, because I was very, very skeptical about using supplements when I was going through pharmacy school. Like, I seriously thought that like every supplement was going to kill me. And unfortunately, a lot of MDs, pharmacists, even some nurses probably get similar training that I did. And I learned that none of them worked and they were not effective and they were potentially toxic. Yeah, that's not true. So there's high quality companies that go through testing. So they go through third-party testing. So my company, Rootcology, goes through that. We have Designs for Health that goes through that. We have Pure Encapsulations that goes through this rigorous testing. And so they test to make sure what is on the label is actually in the package. And then they don't add any fillers, and you want to make sure that they're gluten-free, dairy-free, and soy-free, and that they're using like active and like the expensive types of vitamins. So like the methylated vitamins, like methylcobalamin or hydroxycobalamin is good, whereas cyanocobalamin is not the high-quality one. So those are some kind of red flags for me, is making sure that they're doing third-party testing with their supplements, that they are gluten-free, dairy-free. A lot of times a lot of products will be soy-free, or a lot of times it's harder to find soy-free products. The Rootcology line that I've just formulated, that one is going to be 100% soy-free, because that's really, really important for me, for people with thyroid disease. Let's see here. All right, I'm back. Sorry, guys, something disconnected. Kim says, if you choose to try LDN, will that be for life or just until the thyroid is healed? And if that's all possible. So Kim, here's the deal with LDN. So from everything that I've been studying about it the last few years and some of my clients, is you can, it's one of those tools that you can take, and it can be very, very helpful in your journey to get you into remission. And it sort of like suppresses your autoimmune condition. Now, if you figure out the root cause of your autoimmune condition, you can get off of it. But if you haven't figured out your root cause, then you would want to stay on it, because it's like a long-term immune modulator. So one of the ways that I would use it is I would use it, and another thing too, which I should mention, is it's also a preventative for developing cancers or for developing postpartum issues. So something to keep in mind. I'm not currently taking it, but I actually plan on taking it at some point for preventative measures, for preventing postpartum thyroid issues and for preventing cancers in the long term, because it sort of makes you more resilient to whatever triggers you're exposed to, if that makes sense. So it's like, we live in the world that we live in, and we're going to be exposed to stuff, and I like to think of it as a tool to help us become more resilient, right? But it's like, you can get off of it, but then I'm always all about like trying to figure out what things you can put in your corner to help yourself. Alrighty, so why don't we, I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about hoarding. and the role of that in thyroid disease. So if you're thinking of the show Hoarders, that's not exactly what I'm talking about, but close enough. If you're watching this and you haven't watched The Thyroid Secret yet, I have links here for you to register. So if you go to the description, tinyurl.com, TTSE4 is how you can register for episode 4. If you wanted to check out my Hashimoto's Protocol book, the link to that is thyroidpharmacist.com/protocol. And then as a reminder for anybody that buys the gold package of The Thyroid Secret and supports our mission to get The Thyroid Secret out into the world to as many hands as possible, the gold package is like the advanced package with like all the bells and whistles, so you get like access to every single interview. That is tinyurl.com TTS gold. And if you're watching this, if you could share this on your timeline, that would help us to spread the word. So going back to hoarding and hoarders, what does that have to do with the thyroid gland? So the thyroid gland, what it does is it accumulates various things and it concentrates things. The primary thing it's supposed to accumulate and concentrate is iodine to produce thyroid hormones. And now when we have a lot of toxins in our environment, these can actually get concentrated and lodged into the thyroid gland. And there is a theory known as thyroid-initiated autoimmunity, where once the thyroid is toxic, be it from toxins, from damage, from anything else, from infections, the thyroid gland will start sending these signals to the rest of the body that it's not safe and that we need to, hey, let's call in the immune system. We need to do some cleanup over here in aisle thyroid, right? And so then they send in the troops, the immune system starts attacking the thyroid gland and trying to, I guess, get rid of those toxins or get rid of those infections or even repair the thyroid tissue. But for whatever reason, and we still haven't quite figured out why, instead of doing repair work, the immune system will do the damage. And potentially this could be because it's also like the thyroid saying, okay, this is unsafe time, so it's going to be more beneficial for us to slow down activity and sort of put our body in a semi-hibernation state. So the thyroid gland, it concentrates whatever toxins are in our environments, and that can be a potential problem. I wanted to answer a couple of your questions, and then we'll get into some of the most common thyroid toxins that are going to be covered in episode 4 of The Thyroid Secret. So if you haven't been watching, I encourage you to watch. We're airing episode 1, 2, and 3 right now, so you have access to watching those for the next 9 hours or so. And then episode 4 just came out about 3 hours ago, and you have 21 more hours to watch. So if you are at home, I would recommend that you go ahead and make yourself a fun night of watching all of your, doing some binge watching and making sure you get in every single episode. People have been asking about how long the episodes are. They're anywhere from 60 to 90 minutes. I try to get you as much information as possible that could be helpful on your journey to recover from thyroid disease into those episodes, so I didn't hold back. There is also more in the gold package that contains every single interview. So if you're somebody like me that wants to know everything, we also have all those interviews that are available for you guys. And the Hashimoto's Protocol book comes with the gold package when you choose to own that. Next question here. Let's answer. If you guys are watching, if you could also share this on your timeline, that would be really, really helpful. Megan says, what causes unexplained iron deficiency anemia? And she was H. pylori negative. So, Megan, I have a whole section on ferritin and in my book, Hashimoto's Protocol, and then we discuss it in episode 5 of The Thyroid Secret, which is coming out tomorrow, which I highly hope that you watch. And ferritin is a low iron is one of those things that's kind of a marker of something being out of balance in your body. And so one example that you mentioned is going to be H. pylori. So that can cause you to have low ferritin. Then we have SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And then we have parasites. So any kind of infection within the gut could be causing that. Also, nutrient deficiencies, and not just in iron, but in certain nutrients that help you absorb iron, such as manganese or vitamin C, which you're already taking. These things, when you don't have enough of those on board, then you could be potentially becoming iron deficient. Obvious things like not having enough meat in your diet, or not having, because meat is like our primary source of iron, or not having enough stomach acid, that can prevent you from having proper iron absorption. Then there's also Heavy metal toxicity, which we get into episode 4, various types of heavy metals, and then copper toxicity. All of these things can cause you to be iron deficient. So these are just some potential things to look into. And I know this may seem daunting and overwhelming, but it's kind of up to you to educate yourself and go through what some of your potential root causes are. And really the fundamentals are going to be focused on supporting your liver, supporting your adrenals, and supporting your gut. And once you get these things in place, you'll start seeing a lot of these problems lift and resolve. Let's see. Teresa says, seriously, I missed some of you. We missed you too. Let's see here. So tired I fall asleep and my hair is falling out. I get anemic but throw up on iron pills. So you're going to want to watch episode 5. So Susie Cohen, one of my dear pharmacist friends, and I have a nice conversation about how to get your iron levels up without taking iron. So I hope that you'll find that helpful. Noelle also mentioned about menstruating women. So that's another potential root cause of having low iron. If you have really heavy menstrual periods, if you have very, giving birth is actually a big loss of blood. And so those are potential reasons that could be causing iron deficiency. And some people might need to have like a big boost. I know some Dr. Nick Hedberg, who's in episode 8, he will sometimes recommend iron transfusions for people who cannot get their iron levels up. Catherine says, please come to Australia. Oh, I'd love to be in Australia. Nancy asks, is Synthroid okay for some people? Absolutely. Synthroid is a wonderful medication that can be very helpful for a lot of people. What I really want you guys to know is, though, that if you don't feel good on it, there are other options. And so there's a ton of different medications, from Synthroid to levothyroxine to Tirosint, which are T4 medications. And some people just do beautiful on these, right? But there are also T3 containing medications and natural desiccated thyroid medications that can be really, really helpful for other people. And we need to do more than just take medications when we have a thyroid condition. And trust me, I'm a pharmacist, so I know what I'm talking about. Shakriya, what do you think about LDN? LDN, we covered this in episode 3, and that can be a dramatic life changer for people with thyroid disease, Graves' disease, and Hashimoto's, and even with cancers. So I did an interview with Dr. Mark Mendel. He's a compounding pharmacist, one of the leading pharmacists in the U.S. For low-dose naltrexone. So he's worked with thousands of patients with this medication, and I've just heard some amazing things from him, like with LDN helping with addictions, helping with tumors, helping with drug addictions, food addictions, just amazing things I never even would have known about. So it can be a very, very helpful strategy. And I would encourage you to watch episode 3, because we talk about like the best practices for LDN. All right, so let's get into some of the toxins that can cause thyroid disease. We cover these in great detail in episode 4, so I hope that you do check in. We cover some of the protocols for these toxins. I'm not going to have time to go through those because it's almost time for date night, but we have mold as a potential toxin that's going to be in our environment. And I don't care what kind of a diet you're eating. You could be eating the cleanest diet. If you're mold exposed, and even if you're taking the best supplements, you're going to get sick if you're one of the people that's ultra sensitive. Lee Connolly is a thyroid patient and thyroid advocate who I've had the pleasure of working with, and she talks about her journey through mold illness. And then we also have the wonderful Dave Asprey, and then a few different wonderful doctors that talk about how to address mold illness. One of them is Dr. Ann Shippey. So she's a doctor based in Austin, Texas, who actually has gone through mold illness herself. The other toxins to think about: fluoride. Fluoride in our water supply, it has thyroid suppressing effects. So it used to be used as a medication for Graves' disease before we came out with more potent medications. And the dosage that most people are getting in their water supply is going to be enough to cause thyroid suppression. And so that's something very, very important. Mercury from amalgams. So from those silver fillings don't actually contain silver, that can be a potential trigger and root cause. About 50% of people with thyroid disease can be mercury sensitive. And for those people, when you remove the amalgams, they can go into remission from Hashimoto's. The thyroid bodies reduce. The only challenge, though, is the amalgams have to be removed properly. So we talk, because otherwise you can get sicker. And Carrie Vitt talks about her story with that. And I talk about that, what are the protocols for proper amalgam removal. So working with a biological dentist, and I talk about that in the series, and I also talk about it in Hashimoto's protocol. And then, other kinds of toxins that we can be exposed to are going to be present in our personal care products. And this to me was like, this was like really hard for me to take because I've always been such a girly girl. I think I started wearing a purse at age 3, and then I started wearing lipstick and my mom's makeup shortly thereafter, just because, obviously not on a day-to-day basis, but just I've always found it so glamorous and so wonderful. And women are more likely to have autoimmune disease, and part of this is because of all of the stuff that we're putting on our bodies. So we're putting 12 personal care products on our bodies compared to 6 that men put on. And as a pharmacologist, I could tell you all of these things are getting absorbed through the skin, through the lips, through our faces. And lupus is one condition that's been connected to lipstick. So women who wear lipstick are more likely to have lupus. And this is potentially because conventional lipsticks are loaded with toxins. And we talk about that in the Thyroid Secret. And, I haven't talked about this publicly because for a while I was just so upset, but I had actually arsenic toxicity from a lip gloss. And it was the Benefit brand, which I thought was a really, really clean brand until I looked it up. And I was horrified to find that a Canadian report found that it had these extremely high levels of arsenic in it. So I was basically, every time I was putting on this lip gloss, I was giving myself toxicity. I had, I don't know how many women are doing this, and this kind of, you want to see me get upset, this is what I can talk about. But I had tingling in my arms and legs. My hair started falling out, and this is actually a symptom of, arsenic or heavy metal toxicity if you have tingling. So this is something, you guys, I want to really, really want you to be aware of this because it's a big deal. And if you told me this 5 years ago, I would have thought you were crazy. But, look at, on thyroidpharmacist.com, I have links to all the research references and articles in the Thyroid Secret. We have over 100 experts that were interviewed on this, and they're researchers and experts and health advocates. And yeah, there's a lot of information out there, and it's quite scary of what are these things in our environment that are potentially triggering thyroid disease and making us sick when they're marketed to make us more beautiful and make us feel better about ourselves, but they're actually making us sicker, which I could talk about this all night, but I won't. But I encourage you guys to make sure that you watch the Thyroid Secret. So tinyurl.com/TTSE4. I have that linked in this description, and I wrote out the links behind me. Hopefully you could read my chicken scratch. I have more information in my protocol book, thyroidpharmacist.com protocol. And then you guys can learn more about if you wanted to support the Thyroid Secret mission, own the Thyroid Secret, tinyurl.com/TTS Gold. And that will also give you a copy of Hashimoto's protocol. I know a lot of you guys have been asking, how do I can own the series? And, apologize if we didn't make it more obvious. So whenever you watch the episodes, there's going to be a red button that says about learning more about the Thyroid Secret. And we also will send you some emails. Hopefully you're getting them and opening them that will contain information on how to order the series, because we're putting it online for free for 9 days. And we're also offering it to own it for half cost for these 9 days, and then after the fact, it'll just be on sale for DVDs and digital access for a higher price. So just want to make you guys aware of that, because I know some people are like, where can I buy it? And then we didn't make it obvious. So I apologize for that. We'll try to be a little bit more obvious and get that information for you guys out there. Catherine said, will the book be available on any online bookstores? Yeah, thanks for asking. So Amazon, Barnes & Noble, if you guys want to search for Hashimoto's or Isabella Wentz, you'll be able to find Barnes & Noble, and Amazon will have that. And then March 28th is actually the official date that it comes out. So right now you can pre-order it. And our publisher has been letting us know that we need to make sure that we get enough pre-orders by March 10th for them to print enough books. Apparently, like they may not print enough books and then you could run out. So if you guys pre-order your copy, then you'll be able to get that as soon as it comes out. And you can do that through the Amazon, you can do that through Barnes & Noble, you can do that through my website, thyroidpharmacist.com/protocol. And then when you order the gold package of the Thyroid Secret, we also will give you a pre-ordered book too. So to get the awareness out there. Let's see here. Jose says, I even talked to a psychologist. My doctor said it's in my head. You know, it's not. So it's not in your head, so you can recover, and there are things you can do. And I suggest that you work with somebody that listens to you and that can help you. Carrie says she has a thyroid nodule and doesn't want to have surgery. So I highly recommend that you watch the Thyroid Secret and you implement the strategies there. So looking at H. pylori, autoimmune paleo diet, acupuncture, these would be some of the first things I would start, and then getting on perhaps low dose of thyroid hormone. These can be life-changing, and I'm due to write a blog post after the Thyroid Secret is over, and after my book comes out, I'll be back to blogging, which is one of my favorite things to do, is writing up articles for you guys about Hashimoto's and some of the latest innovations in research. And so I'll be writing up an article about thyroid nodules. So if you're not on my email list, if you can go to thyroidpharmacist.com/gift, you'll be able to subscribe to my email list, and I'll be able to send you updates and whenever I have new articles coming out. So make sure you do that if you haven't already, because I like to share really great stuff with my email list first, and then Facebook too, but you guys may not always see the, because of Facebook algorithms, I may post something and you're not going to see it, but with the email list, it just comes straight to your inbox. Let's see here. Julie wants to know, what do you recommend for H. pylori? Mastic gum can be really, really helpful with DGL. I have an H. pylori article on my website. We discuss it in episode 8, and then I have my H. pylori protocols in Hashimoto's protocol. So I have some, you can do medications for sure, but those can be not as gentle as some of the herbal protocols. The herbal protocols take about 2 months, and a lot of times they're going to be much more gentle for you. Okay. Stephanie says, I'm really enjoying this series. I'm so glad to hear that. If you guys wanted to please share this on your timeline and let people know about the Thyroid Secret, I would really appreciate that. We're trying to reach as many people as possible while the series is free, because my mission is to change the way that thyroid disease is treated. And I want to reach as many people as possible now while we have this information available. Okay, so we've got about a few minutes left, so I wanted to talk to you guys about iodine. This is such a controversial topic, and apparently there are Facebook groups dedicated to how much they hate me because I say that high-dose iodine doesn't cure everything. So yeah, it's kind of silly, but there is a theory that there is basically iodine is a required nutrient for creating thyroid hormone. And in old school days, whenever people had thyroid disease or an underactive thyroid, it was probably because of iodine deficiency. And then giving a person iodine actually helped them normalize their thyroid function, right? And that's a beautiful thing. If you are iodine deficient, you should take iodine. That's how it works, right? Here's the thing though, most people with Hashimoto's are not going to be iodine deficient, and the ones that are will likely only benefit from a small dose. So the dosage of iodine that's recommended for most people is going to be something that's found in a multivitamin. Anything higher than that could be potentially problematic. And now this is going to be a per person thing, and we do talk a lot more about iodine in in episode 4. So I hope that you check into that. Ashley and Ida have great questions. What about glutathione? So glutathione is excellent for detoxifying. I also like N-acetylcysteine, which is a glutathione precursor. Ashley wants to know, how do you detox? So detox, here's the thing. And one of these days, I'm going to start a hashtag of things I learned the hard way. But if you try to do a detox, like a heavy metal detox, and you're not quite ready for it, you can make yourself worse instead of better. So one of the things that happens is when you do something like chelation therapy, which is kind of an alternative medicine procedure that's, again, like high dose iodine. It's one of those old school procedures where they were saying this is what you need to do. And a lot of the old school procedures, unfortunately, may not be so safe as some of the new procedures, the functional medicine stuff that I recommend, which is, my first goal is always my first question is always is it safe? Before I think about, is it effective, or, is it going to be helpful? I always ask, is this going to be safe? Because I don't want to make anybody worse before they get better. And so detoxing, things like spirulina, I try to use that for detoxifying, and I got, that was at the beginning of my thyroid journey, and that's supposed to help clear toxins out of your body. Well, what happens is if you're not ready, if your liver is congested, if your gut is congested, you're not going to be moving those toxins properly if you're not sweating. And so what I ended up doing is I ended up moving toxins around my body, and I ended up with somehow the toxins, I don't know if they got in my tear ducts or in my eyelids, how exactly that worked, but I ended up with something called giant papillary conjunctivitis, which was awful, and it's basically giant pimples on the inside of my eyelids, and I had to stop wearing contact lenses. I actually had to go to wearing daily disposable lenses because I became sensitive to the proteins my own eyes were making that were building up on the contact lenses. And this is something that is considered autoimmune in nature. And so this is one example. Another example is people who, for example, have heavy metals within their thyroid gland. If they take chelation, the heavy metals can move from their thyroid gland into their brain, and then they might start getting brain symptoms or brain autoimmunity. So the thing that you want to do is you want to support your detox pathways, but you don't want to do a forcible detox. The way that you support your detox pathways is that you could do things like N-acetylcysteine and glutathione, milk thistle, hot lemon water, those kinds of things, citrus pectin, fiber. Those are all going to be things that help your body absorb more toxins and clear them out naturally. So you want to not force your body to detox, but rather work with your own body's detoxification systems. And that is actually the basis of Hashimoto's Protocol, my book. And then we discussed that in episode 4 of the Thyroid Secret, which is airing right now. And I hope that you'll tune in for that. So that's the difference between liver versus detox. Let's see here. Jean says, I sweat like crazy at night, so I would look at adrenal issues and hormone issues, as well as potentially chronic infections. Nurse practitioner nervous about LDN. She doesn't know how to dose it. Where do I send her to learn more? So ldnresearchtrust.org. Send her to your local compounding pharmacist that knows how to dose it. They can do an in-service for her clinic or train her with that. And let's see here. What guys are asking questions. Do you recommend niacin and infrared sauna? I actually I really love the infrared sauna. I like the Sunlighten brand, and I have one in my basement. I won't do a Facebook Live out of the sauna, I promise, but it is something that is a very underappreciated thing in thyroid disease. So most people with thyroid conditions don't sweat. And this is not something that people complain about. I've never had a client that said, oh man, I just wish I could sweat more, right? It's one of those things that's like, oh yeah, I guess I don't sweat. And really sweating is one of the body's best way to get rid of toxins. And when we're not sweating, we're holding on to those toxins. So anything you can do to work up a sweat. And so things I love, hot yoga, hot baths with maybe some essential oils or something soothing for yourself. And then doing a hot sauna or exercise as you can tolerate. These are all going to be great ways to get rid of toxins from your body and supporting yourself. And so you get rid of toxins through your kidneys, your sweat pores, So you get rid of toxins through your kidneys, through your liver, through your sweat, and through your gut. And so you want to try to support, one, you want to try to support all those pathways, and two, you want to reduce the amount of toxins that you have in your day-to-day life. So you want to reduce your personal care products use that are harmful. You want to reduce your fluoride intake. And then we also, that's kind of the beginning. And then if you still need to after that, if you want to do more of the advanced detox methods, then at that point, you're going to have better outcomes with the advanced detox methods, and they're going to be much more safer for you. So I hope that you guys are going to be watching the Thyroid Secret, tinyurl.com, TTSE4 is where you can watch it, sign up. We have episode 1, 2, and 3 airing right now for the next 9 hours. And then we have episode 4 that's going to be airing for the next 21 hours. So I hope that you guys check into all these episodes, and I hope you're really, really enjoying the Thyroid Secret. I have all kinds of links for you guys in this description about my protocol book, and if you're interested in owning the DVDs and all that good stuff. Apologize for not making it more obvious. So thank you so much, you guys, for dialing in. It's been so wonderful to chat with you tonight. I'm looking forward to seeing you tomorrow night. I think we'll have a lot of fun. We're going to be doing episode 5 tomorrow, where we really dive deep into nutrition. Episode 5 I'm really, really excited about too. My good friend Magdalena came over and we did some cooking. So she's the queen of nutritional therapy for estrogen dominance. And Magdalena actually was able to get her Hashimoto's and Graves' disease into remission. So she's a dear friend, and she's one to watch. So I know you guys will really enjoy our little time in the kitchen that we did together. And thank you so much for dialing in. It looks like I'm going to say goodbye to you guys. So Trisha from Trinidad and Tobago, that's amazing. Stephanie, thank you so much. Kimberly says thanks. Thanks so much for being here. Catherine, it was nice to chat with you. Sherry, hello. Fu, thanks for wishing me a great evening. Barbara is enjoying the series, so I'm really glad to hear that. Kim says you're a gem. Thank you, Kim. I appreciate that. Emily says thank you so much. Okay, well, thank you guys so much. It was fun hanging out with you tonight, and I will see you tomorrow night. Hope you have a great day. Enjoy watching The Thyroid Secret.